The first people that were attacked were the elderly. They were not allowed visitors in hospitals. As they were dying, their children could not be by their side. They had to die alone. This happened to many people in my family. It was elderly parents and grandparents were dying alone in hospitals. These people who attack the weak, what causes them to come? What causes them to appear in your society? In order to stop these people, we have to stop the inflationary process. The good news is that the inflationary process will stop when it can no longer be supported by nature, because if you keep stealing from each other, eventually you run out of things. Hey guys, Rafi here from the Endgame Investor, and tonight is the Jewish holiday of Purim, and I wanted to say something about it. There is a connection between Purim and inflation. It's a connection that I have never heard any rabbis speak of before, but here I'm going to bring it up. Purim is based on the book of Esther. The basic story is that Esther becomes queen of Persia after being picked in some kind of beauty contest after the king Ahasuerus killed his first queen, Vashti, because he was mad at her that he wouldn't dance in front of her at a drunken party. Esther becomes queen, and then Haman, who becomes the advisor to the king, doesn't like Esther's cousin Mordecai because he won't bow down to him. So he decides to kill all the Jews. Esther goes in front of the king and invites him and Haman to a party. The king gets suspicious of Haman, and eventually the queen, Esther, accuses Haman of cooking up a plot to kill all the Jews of Persia. The law is changed from all the Jews in Persia have to die to the Jews can defend themselves, and they do, and they win, and they remain in exile, but it is a relatively happy ending. Now, Haman is from the family of Amalek, and Amalek appears in the Bible in Exodus chapter 17, verse 8. That is the first time that the nation of Amalek attacks the Israelites, and it happens right after the splitting of the sea, after the Israelites are complaining about a lack of water, and they whine, and God doesn't like this so much. But after they whine, they get their water. Amalek comes and just starts attacking them. Later on, in the book of Deuteronomy, 3 books later, in chapter 25, verse 17, the Jews have a commandment, and that is to remember what Amalek did to us in the desert, that they happened upon us suddenly, and the Torah uses the word vayizanev becha. The zanav means a tail. It means they attacked your tail, they attacked your rear, they attacked the weak people in the back. Oh, now when you have a nation that goes up to challenge a group of people that just had a sea split for them by a god, and goes up and attacks the weak people of that nation, these people are evil. The people that attack the weak, that target the weak in a war, are evil people. We have a commandment to eradicate them from the world. Now, what does this have to do with inflation? To explain that, I'm going to go back to some verses in Deuteronomy that don't seem to be related, but I promise you they are. Just stay tuned. This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 21, verse 10, the beginning of the portion of Ki Tetzei. This is a separate Torah portion for Jews reading it. We read a portion every week on the Sabbath. The verse says, "If you go out to war against your enemies, and the Lord your God will deliver him into your hands, and you take his captives, and you see among the captives a beautiful woman, and you desire her, you may take her for yourself as a wife. You shall bring her into your home, and she shall shave her head and let her nails grow." So you can take a woman as captive in a war, but you cannot immediately marry her. You have to take her home first and let her shave her head and let her nails grow, basically take away her beauty, and get yourself out of the war scenario before you decide to marry some foreign woman. "And she shall remove the garment of her captivity from upon herself, and stay in your house, and weep for her father and her mother for a full month. After that you may be intimate with her and possess her, and she will be a wife for you. And it will be, if you do not desire her, if you change your mind, right, then you shall send her away wherever she wants. But you shall not sell her for money. You shall not keep her as a servant, because you have afflicted her, you've caused her pain. You cannot do whatever you want with her." Next, "If a man has 2 wives, one beloved and the other despised, and they bear him sons, the beloved one and the despised one, and the firstborn son is from the despised one, then it will be on the day the husband bequeaths his property to his sons that he will not be able to give the son of the beloved wife birthright precedence over the son of the despised wife, the real firstborn son." So if you have a wife that you love and a wife that you don't love, if the wife that you love has the second son, you cannot make him the firstborn son and give him more. You have to treat your firstborn son, even if he's from the wife that you do not love, as the firstborn. Now, third, verse 18. This also seems unrelated. If a man has a wayward and rebellious son who does not obey his father or his mother, and they chasten him, and he still does not listen to them, his father and his mother shall take hold of him and bring him out to the elders of the city and to the gate of his place. And they shall say to the elders of his city, the son of ours is wayward and rebellious. He does not obey us. He is a glutton and a guzzler. And all the men of his city shall pelt him to death with stones. These three instances do not seem to be related. You have a woman who you take captive, and if you don't want to marry her, then you have to let her go and you cannot sell her. The second is if you have two wives, one who's beloved and one who's not. So it's sort of hinting to you, if you marry this woman, it's not a good idea to marry captive women that you take in wartime. This is a bad practice. It's hinting at you that it's a bad idea. And third, if you end up having kids with this woman who you will end up hating, then one of them could end up being a drunkard and a glutton. And you do not want that. So one thing leads to another. Don't take women captive and marry them. It is not a good practice. That is the hint here. And because of the juxtaposition of these three matters. Now, let's move to the matter of remembering Amalek, the people that go after the weak, the people that attack the weak and the children. This is Deuteronomy chapter 25, the same portion as those three matters that I read earlier. This is the end of the portion. It says in verse 17, you shall remember what Amalek did to you on the way when you went out of Egypt, how he happened upon you on the way and cut off all the stragglers at your rear, when you were faint and weary, and he did not fear God. Therefore it will be when the Lord your God grants you respite from all your enemies around you in the land which the Lord your God gives to you as an inheritance to possess, that you shall obliterate the remembrance of Amalek from beneath the heavens. You shall not forget. Now, this is the commandment, the mitzvah, of eradicating Amalek, the people that attack the weak part of the nation, the people that go after the weak. Those people are evil, and you cannot suffer their existence. Who were the first people that were attacked with the certain medical policies that were enacted over the last 2 years? If you remember going back to March, April 2020, at the very beginning of this, which is now, thank God, ending, or something is ending at least. The first people that were attacked were the elderly. They were not allowed visitors in hospitals. As they were dying, their children could not be by their side. They had to die alone. This happened to many people in my family, whose elderly parents and grandparents were dying alone in hospitals. Kids were discouraged from seeing their grandparents telling them that they were going to kill them, etc., etc. It was the elderly that were attacked first. And who are the last group of people to get the mask mandates lifted? The children in the schools. These people who started this medical war, they went after the elderly and the children, just like Amalek did. That's the kind of people we're dealing with here. And now I'm going to get into inflation, because we just said that at the beginning of this portion, we had the matter of the captive woman, followed by the matter of someone who doesn't love his wife and who wants to make his other son from the one he loves the firstborn to give him the inheritance, can't do that, and then ending up having a son, which is a big problem, a drunkard and a glutton, and what's going to happen to that kind of thing. So it's a bad idea to marry a woman who you take captive in a war. What is also a bad idea? What is the commandment just before getting rid of Amalek, eradicating these people who attack the weak? What causes them to come? What causes them to appear in your society? Just before the mitzvah of remembering what Amalek did to you in the desert, it is the mitzvah, the commandment against inflation. The verse says, you shall not keep in your house two different ephah measures, one large and one small, meaning an inflated one and a real one. Rather, you shall have a full and honest weight, a full and honest measure, in order that your days will be prolonged on the land which the Lord your God gives you. For whoever does these things, whoever perpetrates such injustice, is an abomination to the Lord your God. And then we have, you shall remember what Amalek did to you on the way when you went out of Egypt. And so the mitzvah of honest weights and measures comes right before the mitzvah of remembering Amalek. Because if you have a society that begins the inflationary process, which is the theft of everyone from everyone, it is a society that begins to be based on theft, and the values of that society get disintegrated slowly but surely into where we are now. And we see we've lost a lot of basic values critical in building a free society, an American society, a generally liberal Western society. Those values appear gone now. Why? Because since the inflationary process really began in 1971, 1973, the moral values of the society have gotten lower and lower and lower. And lo and behold, this is when Amalek attacks, when the immune system of society, which is only healthy when there's a healthy money, which connects people through justice and equity, when that gets inflated and you start the inflationary thieving process, values of society wear down. People want free money, they want to live off the inflation, and they lose their value system. And then Amalek, the people that go after the weak, they sense a weakened societal immune system and they attack. One leads to the other. In order to stop these people, we have to stop the inflationary process. The good news is that the inflationary process will stop when it can no longer be supported by nature, because if you keep stealing from each other, eventually you run out of things. And that is what we are on the brink of. And once that happens, Amalek will fall away, as they always do. They cannot be sustained by anything other than theft. We are in the attack mode now. We're being attacked. The elderly and the children are being attacked first. And that's what we have to remember this Purim. This is Rafi of the Endgame Investor. If you enjoyed this type of biblical commentary, then you can sign up to be my patron on Patreon, where I give these sorts of videos and interpretations and explanations every week. And of course, you can sign up for the Endgame Investor for a 2-week free trial to see how I deal with the inflationary process in a financial sense. Happy Purim to everyone celebrating, and have a good rest of the week.